Well, hello everyone. This is Cliff Rohde of GoatCloud Communications. I am the owner and chief executive goat of GoatCloud, and I am delighted to be here again with another GoatCloud Hangout, an internet marketing online use tutorial where we try to help people do all sorts of things online. Basically, we help small businesses, nonprofits, individuals to thrive online. And what we mean by that is to make sure that they are making use of their online assets, websites, social media, etc., to do a great job online and offline to promote their business, whatever it is they're actually doing in the physical world. Now, happy fall to everyone. Today is September 26, 2014. It is officially fall, and if you happen to be of the Jewish persuasion, Happy New Year to you. Even if you're not Jewish, Happy New Year to you. Why not? It's a beautiful day here in upstate New York, and we hope you're having a good day too. Just as a way of introduction, well, I already gave the introduction about myself and GoatCloud. I do want to say, if you happen to be watching this episode on a smartphone, on your computer, etc., please be so kind to let the world know that. You can hashtag GoatMojo. You really do want to get that Goat Mojo and let the world know that you are watching or listening, as the case may be. You can also ping us on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, on our website, all those different places. We're available at GoatCloud. So you can certainly find us online and let the world know that you're online with us today, talking about Google Analytics, which of course we're going to get to in a little bit. One other thing that I always like to do is mention corporate responsibility. We always like to, as GoatCloud, give something back. If you visit our website, go to goatcloud.com and check out Give a Goat. You can find out how we give a little something back to communities in need. We encourage everybody to give something back to their community or to other communities just because it's a great thing to do. It makes you feel great. And now we're going to get off our high horse or high goat, as the case may be, and talk a little bit more about the substance. Now, last time we were here, we were talking with Hangout number 15, we were talking with Sarah Gold, who is a small business attorney in the Capital District of New York. We talked about some really interesting things that she is doing online, and also she had some really valuable tips for small businesses, nonprofits who are active in what they're doing, about how they can what kinds of legal things, and we talked about a little bit about tax stuff. I don't think she holds herself out as a tax attorney, but all sorts of little gems to be learned. So we hope you got something out of that. Go check it out. You can also listen to this on a podcast. We've converted it that way. It's available on iTunes. There are all sorts of ways to listen in. Apologies in advance for the cold that I'm experiencing. So I'm going to be probably slurping water as we go. I'm sorry about that. I did also want to say that this aims to be interactive. And so we have a question and answer if you portion to this. If you happen to be listening to this or watching it online in the moment, you can certainly ask questions and we will attempt to answer them as we go. I would ask that this time that the questions do be limited to Google Analytics, which is what we will be talking about. But if you're not watching it live, still feel free to ask us a question about these issues, and we'll get back to you. Maybe we can post it on the website post where the information related to this particular episode is indicated. What we often do before we talk about the substance is talk a little bit about news. And one piece of news that we wanted to just bring up is that Google has just recently announced that they are releasing their latest version of what's called their Panda update. And the goal with this update is to, I don't want to say punish or penalize, but I suppose diminish maybe is the word of the ranking results for content that is thin or poor, content that's not really terrific. You know, it's one of the challenges of this job, helping people online, is that you always want people to find you online, or else why bother, really, right? And if you want people to find you online, the chances are they need to find you through Google. Now, there are other ways that people can find you online, but let's face it, when it comes to search, Google is the monster that's out there. It's even more pronounced in Europe than it is in the United States, but Google owns search pretty much. So we want to make sure that we do what's necessary to make sure that Google can find your site, index it well, and deliver visitors to you through their services. And so they're always changing their algorithm in the way that their search function works, which can make it a real challenge, because you may find that you're doing well in search one day and you're not doing so well the other day, and you're scratching your head as to what's going on there. In fact, what we're going to be talking about today, Google Analytics, which is a way of monitoring website traffic, is helpful in that regard. Because if Google made a change and your traffic is impacted, you can go back and check and see if the timing of the traffic change to your website coincides with what Google was doing to its algorithm. Or, of course, if it was something else going on, events in the world or changes that you made to your website or online presence generally. And so the news is relevant, really relevant to what we're going to be talking about today. Now, today what I'm going to be doing largely online is sharing a screen, so you're not going to be seeing my mug anymore, although you'll be able to hear my voice, and we're going to step through a screen share and talking about Google Analytics. And but I should say, even if you don't have the screen share capability because you're listening to this later on, that's okay, because we're going to be talking about stuff and it should be fairly obvious what we're talking about, although the screen share certainly would help in some respects. Now, before we start talking about Google Analytics and the implementation of Google Analytics, maybe we should take a little bit of time, at least a few seconds, and ask why. Why do we even care about Google Analytics? Or why do we care even generally about website traffic and what website traffic is doing? Well, and I guess the answer is that you have to know this information, because otherwise you don't really know if your website is working for you. And if you are exploring data about website traffic, you want to figure out what is working for you, what is not working for you, correct problems as you see them, and generally understand what it is your visitors are doing. Well, I guess first of all, who your visitors are, and then second of all, what they're doing when they come to your website. Are they doing what you want them to do? Are they not doing what you want them to do? There are all sorts of issues you can ask and answer through the use of monitoring, traffic monitoring statistics. And there really is the touchstone out there, to my mind, is Google Analytics. It's great because it offers a tremendous amount of data. It is absolutely free. And so there's no reason really not to deploy this service on your website. Link it up as well to other online assets that you have, so you can track really what is happening with your online presence. So I think that answers the questions of why we even care about that, or the question of why we even care about that. So why don't we turn now to Google Analytics itself and step through some of the processes that we need to know about to deploy the service, and then to really use the service fully once we get on. So what I'm going to do is do a screen share here, so forgive me for looking off to the side, but I need to do that so that you can see the screen. Now, you are seeing a screen of mine, and I suppose I'm giving up the information here about one of my websites. What I've got here is a Google Analytics typical shot for a website called Wind Power Law. For purposes of disclosure, I used to be pretty involved in the alternative energy sector, and so this website came about as a result of it. It's largely abandoned at this point, but it's useful for our ability right now to look at Google Analytics. Now, what I want to do first really is come to the area of administration. How do you get Google Analytics on your website? Well, Here's what you do. First of all, you go to google.com/analytics. And if you do not already have an account, it is going to prompt you to create an account. So this assumes that you have an account, but go ahead and create it. What you're going to do is set up your first site. And what you can do is you're gonna set up an account over here, and here's all this stuff, and then you're gonna set up a property, and you want to set up a property for each website that you own. And so in this case, this is windpowerlaw.info. One of the elements that they're going to give you here is the tracking info. This is the actual script, the tracking code that you're going to want to put on your website. So you can see this is the code for my website. You're going to want to see that on your website. Now, if you don't know how to put this code on your website, talk to your web developer. You want to have this tracking code on every single page of your website, because if you don't have it on every single page, then you're not going to be knowing where the traffic is going on your website. So you don't want it just on your home page. You want it everywhere that you have on that page. Now, if you're not so comfortable dealing with this stuff, again, you can also set up additional users. And so you can set up a user at the property level. You can assign someone to use this property, or you can even at the account level establish it so that somebody else can manage the account for you. When I work with my clients, it's very typical that they will, or I will help them usually to set up a Google account, set up a Google Analytics account, and then at this account level, they will make me an administrative user of the account. They can, of course, always throw me off anytime they want. The account really should belong to you. It should not belong to your developer because this is your website after all. We're talking about your account. But go ahead and you can allow someone else to be on that account. So again, this is in the administrative side of Google Analytics. Now let's take a look. We've set up our account. We've got the tracking code on every single page. Let's take a look at some of the basic information that we get in the Google Analytics panel. So what I want to talk about first, I guess, is the audience overview. And you'll see that most commonly what happens is that Google will automatically populate with the last 30 days or so of traffic to your website, which is great. If you happen to click up here and change the dates, you can change the dates to anything you want. One of the things that I really like to do is automatically set here, I want to compare against the previous period, and we'll hit apply here, because what that allows you to do is take a look at the traffic and say, well, how is my traffic doing? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Did I make some sort of change to the website that has made a difference, or I did something offline? Maybe I met a bunch of people at a networking conference and they're all visiting my site now because they have my business card. Whatever the case may be, this allows you to compare information from one time period to another time period. Now, another thing that you might want to do is set up right now to look at month over month. You could set a 60-day period to look at. You could look at this month compared to the same month a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever you like. It gives you an idea, though, of what is going on your website in comparison to another time period. Now you can see, if you're looking at the screen as I am, that the blue is current and the orange is last month. So you can see that my traffic on this particular website is down a little bit, 2.5%, because that's the number of sessions, that's the number of visits. We're going to go over this. Honestly, I don't really care, because I'm not paying attention to this site all that much. I wanted to show you here, though, too, that while you're looking at the audience overview, this is a place where I like to keep track of things that I've done to my website or that I've done elsewhere. I just clicked on a little triangle that's right below the chart data, and you can add here notations to your website. So what I might do is, if I'm doing something here, is let's say I'll change the date to today, because we're looking at traffic right now, just today. And you can see it's not a whole lot, but what I want to do is create an annotation and say, today. You can see the date shows up, and add an annotation that says, had Google Hangout about analytics. So because you know what? There might be more people who come to visit, and this is something that I'm going to want to remember as I'm looking at traffic maybe sometime down the road. So that's a good way to keep track of changes to your website, changes to your online presence that are meaningful um, uh, for tracking changes in traffic patterns. So I've changed it back. We're looking at this most recent month. Now, one of the great things that you can look at here about audience is, I'm going to take a quick aside and take a look over here in the left-hand panel, demographics. If you have in here what are called universal analytics, which is the newer form of Google Analytics, you can set it up so that you have demographic reports about the visitors to your site. Now you can see I have not actually enabled this for this website. I would encourage you to do it for your website, because then you can take a look at the age of your visitors, the gender of your visitors, and also some interests that they may have. It's really a terrific way to understand more about the visitors to your website. So make sure you've enabled demographic and or demographic tracking via Google Analytics, just so you can understand who is coming to your site. You may think that what you're doing resonates with one group of people, and it might be an entirely different group of people that it's resonating with. So maybe you need to change something to get to those target people that are your ideal customer. Let's take a look now. We're back at the overview page of traffic. Let's just get a handle on what this stuff means, this data that they're providing to us. And really, this is just the basics here, scratching the surface. Sessions, unsurprisingly, is the visits to your site, right? The total number of sessions. Again, well, I changed the dates a little bit, so the numbers here are a little bit different. But so I've got basically 10% more visits or sessions in this period than I did a month ago. Great. So I can see that it's trending up a little bit. What about users? Now this is, I have 237 users this time around versus 190 last time around. You know, those are people, it says, users that have had at least one session within the state. Those are visitors. And so they're not, these are, I believe, if I'm remembering right, includes both new and returning visitors. So it's not just people who are coming here for the first time, but it's people who have been here before as well. It's a total of 237 for this month versus 190. So you love to see that go up, right? If you're wanting your traffic to go up, most people do. If you come over to the right-hand side of the screen, you can see in contrast the number of people who, or visitors, users, who are new versus returning. So in the case of this website, we've got 91% are new visitors and 9% are returning visitors. You know, maybe you want to serve returning customers for some reason. You know, whatever the case may be, you will understand what's best for you, whether it's returning people or people who are brand new to the website. Page views here are the number of pages on your website that are actually viewed. So I have 283 here versus 236 in a time period beforehand. Every visit or session has one or more page views, right? A person will visit one or more pages on your website. Generally speaking, it is the more, the merrier. You want people to visit many pages, many times, and this is a way to figure out how many pages are being visited. And in fact, you can get an idea here of the number of pages per session because they give you this statistic right here. And I can see that for this most recent period, we got 1.35 over 1.24. So it's slightly creeping up. That's a good thing usually, because the notion is that you want people to be interacting with your site, visiting multiple pages. It suggests that you have a good amount of content that people are finding of value. And so usually the thought is the higher number of pages there are on the website, there are pages per session, the better. Is that always the case? No, not necessarily. In most cases, yes. Average session duration. How long are people spending on your site? Right, if you see that the average session duration is really low, you know, seconds, well, then you have a real problem, because that means people are coming to the website and then they just leave immediately. Generally speaking, and this goes to the idea of the number of pages per session, the longer the longer period of time that somebody spends on your website, the better. Now, it's not always necessarily the case, because you might say as well, well, what if people just can't find what's on my website? And maybe they're looking around too much for what they're trying to find. That can create higher session durations. But on the flip side of that is that people do tend to get frustrated. And so if they can't find what they're looking for, they might also just abandon the site entirely. And so that may actually suggest that the session duration will go down. So, but anyway, it is an element that's worth looking at, and you want to see what the trend is. It's terrifically important to my mind to be looking at the trends of the analytics, not just at a snapshot in time. Are your trends, generally speaking, looking good, or are they generally speaking looking not so good? That's really critical to know. And also, again, with these annotations, looking at traffic over time, you can get an idea of what's working, what's not working. Bounce rate. That's a pretty critical issue. What that means is a bounce is when somebody comes to your website, lands on one page, and then leaves. They don't look at any other website. Generally speaking, again, we're talking in generalities here, the notion is that your bounce rate should be low, or lower is better than a higher bounce rate. However, let's say, for example, you have a piece of information on your website that is exactly what somebody is looking for. And if that page is exactly what somebody is looking for, they find it, and then they leave, and you have gotten from them everything that you want to get out of that visit, well, that may very well lend itself to a high bounce rate. And that can be okay. So remember, the general idea is a bounce rate. Generally speaking, you want a lower one, but it really depends on what your website is offering. And here we can see percent new sessions, how we get percent new sessions over 100%. I'm not entirely certain how that is working, but anyway, we can see that I have more new sessions this time around than I did last time around. Now, there is one going on from audience. I'm going to come down in the left-hand panel of Google Analytics. And by the way, Google Analytics can and does change. This is the standard for what it's like on September 26th of 2014, but we might see different elements over here in the future. Who's to say? Another item that I like to come and look down at. Oh, actually, before I do that, I want to take a quick peek here, just to say, do you always have to check into Google Analytics to see what's going on? No. What I will often do is take this report here, the audience overview, and have this be emailed by clicking on this email up here, and have that sent on a regular basis to my client, to myself, so that it prompts me to take a look at the analytics data. It's a good idea to set that up. If you set it up, it's going to send out, say, a weekly report for every week, for a 6 months period. You can extend that period up to another year from whenever you're extending it, and it's a great way to just be prompted to take a look at your analytics on a weekly basis. Now, coming back to the analytics panel, looking at the data. Another important piece of the puzzle to look at is acquisition. Acquisition is, where are people coming from? So this will tell you, we can click on Overview and Acquisition, for instance, and see where people are coming from, what Google calls channels in analytics. Organic search, right? That's the free or unpaid search, the organic search results that everybody wants to show up on Google. Referral are visits from other websites. Maybe you have a link to your website on somebody else's website, and they come over as a consequence of that. That would be considered a referral. Direct is when somebody just types in your domain name and they land on it directly. Or maybe they have a link saved in their bookmarks and they just click on it. They end up there. Social, unsurprisingly, is links from social media outlets like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, etc. You want to make sure to set up your Google Analytics so that it understands which are your properties. But this, even if somebody else were to share your data or share your post, let's say your blog post, this is going to be capturing information about traffic coming in from social media outlets. Other, in this case, I'm not entirely certain whether I don't have any AdWords. This could be ads, other traffic. If you're taking out AdWords, an AdWords campaign, doing the pay-per-click advertising campaign to direct traffic to your website, you will want to link your Google AdWords account with your Google Analytics account, which is a really good idea. And then you can understand what's going on with the traffic from your ad campaign. If we want to take a look at keywords, we can look at organic keywords, and this will give you an idea to a certain extent of the traffic coming in from particular searches. Now, you can see in the great majority of cases, in this case, it's 149 out of 185 sessions, the keyword is not provided. Google does not provide keywords like they used to. So remember that you're not going to get all sorts of great data here, but you'll get some data about the types of searches that people are using to get to your website. And that's good information to know, because it'll tell you if some of what you're doing online is working or not. Now, I had wanted to get to a couple of items called filters, and for traffic, to filter out traffic that you don't really want, and then also to talk about both using goals and events in Google Analytics. And I'm not going to be able to get to that this time around because I am running out of time. I want to come back, stop screen sharing, and I'm going to see if there are any questions or that anybody has posted. So I'm going to do that right now. I will address these on, I'll have to schedule another time where I'm talking about more Google Analytics issues in a second one. So I will say, if there are any questions right now that anybody wants to pose and you're watching it on the event page, go ahead and type in your question and I will answer it. And if not, that's fine too. If you want to send me an email, go ahead. It's cliff@goatcloud.com and we can address that, that question at another time. So we covered today really very basics and really pretty quickly about Google Analytics. I can't stress enough that it's a really important tool to use. You should have it on your website if you don't already. Get someone to help you set it up if you don't really understand how to set it up. Get someone to talk you through this, what these results mean, what the analytics data mean, so that you can understand about the traffic to your website. And so I will definitely schedule a second time to talk about Google Analytics, about some of the other stuff that's still pretty basic, but it allows you to understand even better about the information on your in your Google Analytics account. And so that's really going to conclude today's presentation. I do want to say again, if you are so kind to let the world know that you watched this, you can hashtag GoatMojo and talk about our hangout online. Please feel free to friend or find or follow us on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. Just look for GoatCloud. There is not another company out there with our name using that handle. So please find us. If you did find this of any particular use, feel free to leave a review, please, on our Google+ page. We're always grateful when people leave reviews. So without any further ado, we're going to conclude today. Again, my name is Cliff Rohde. I'm the owner and Chief Executive Goat of GoatCloud Communications, an upstate New York internet marketing firm that helps you to thrive online. Be sure to find us online at goatcloud.com. Feel free to ping me at cliff@goatcloud.com. And until the next one, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you around at the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.